So, Camila, where are you from in Colombia? Tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Bogota, which is the capital. And I've lived here my whole life, but my dad's family is from like Medellin, Antioquia, which is another big city.
And what was it like growing up there?
I have been very privileged with the way I was able to grow up in Colombia. It's a very difficult place to live in. And
Okay.
well, I'm sure, well, maybe you don't know, but Colombia is very kind of politically unstable. And there's a lot of things that have kind of affected that. So when I was younger, like the guerrilla would be a lot more prevalent than it is today. So sometimes you couldn't like drive certain places, you couldn't go to certain places, which is still, um, like a thing uh, in the capital where like, of course, we're a bit more isolated from like what happens, like most of the horrible things that happen, which
Yeah.
I am very thankful for, but is also something that kind of has isolated me from that.
So, like, what's the best part of Colombia, though? Like, do you enjoy the food, the music, the culture, the unity? What's the best part of Colombia?
I mean, I love living here. I love everything about here. I mean, I it's something that has also taken me a lot of time to kind of reconcile with because I always felt like, and I'm sure you probably do too, like being from, not the US and not like
Yeah.
Europe, that you always feel like you have to kind of assimilate into that culture and kind of leave your own behind. Or well, at least I did. But I love everything. I love the food. I love the music, the culture, the people. I'm really happy that I stayed to study here. This thing, I don't know what is the Jamaican equivalent, but I remember like they're called empanadas, but they're basically like samosas. They're super, super delicious. And of course, there's in every Latin American country, but I really like the Colombian ones because they're a bit different. They're not like flaky dough. They're like, I don't know,
Oh,
they're deep
yeah.
fried and they're really good.
Since like how in Jamaica we have a lot of reggae music and dancehall, and you guys have like a prominent kind of music in Colombia.
I'd say the two main, like, of course, there's a lot of music, and Colombia is a very interesting country because it's like very mixed. So you go to different places of Colombia, and it basically feels like different countries. There's different cultures, different music. Colombia has like J Balvin, Maluma. All those people are Colombian. Um,
Mm.
and I would also say like salsa and like I think it's very based on like Caribbean music too, because it's very much from the Caribbean coast.
So are you guys are Colombians united in certain situations?
That also depends quite a lot. Colombia is a very difficult country,
Oh
really.
my.
But there's like well, I mean, there's been a really long conflict in Colombia. It's been like like it's not really civil war, but it's more like an internal like conflict that has been
Is
going
that
on
an
for
ethnic conflict or
no, it's
political?
political.
What would you say are the main challenges facing Colombia?
Like peace is a huge one. I
Mhm.
again, I don't know if you remember, but Colombia tried to go through a peace treaty in 2015 with what like the biggest guerrilla group, and it they made a treaty with like the guerrilla group, and then they put it up. They made like a referendum, I guess, and they put it up for the whole country to vote, and it was split like 50-50 on like implementing or not implementing the well, like 51-49, 51% being for no. So like peace is a huge one because like guerrilla groups are obviously still there, and it's very hard for people to kind of reconcile with them because it has to do a lot with forgiveness and trying not to like seek revenge for like what has happened, but trying to like forgive and also remember. But that's really hard because it depends on who's like organizing that. I'd also say like infrastructure is super big because there's no infrastructure in the country. I would also say like not not like natural resources, but like the environment. Colombia is very, very, very exploited, and I think Colombia holds like a huge percentage of the world's like water supply and everything. And because we're not like a super developed country, it's like, of course, like to go through that industrialization, like industrialized process, you have to kind of use a lot of natural resources, but you can't use natural resources anymore.
Do you guys consider yourselves a part of the Caribbean?
Like the country as a whole, or
Yeah, like do Colombians consider themselves like Latin Americans, but you're kind of in the Caribbean, or are you just like, I am South American, full stop?
Colombia is like has two coasts, right? The Pacific and the Caribbean. The
Right.
Caribbean coast is like super like Caribbean. I don't know how else to explain it. Like it really does feel like it's part of like that Caribbean culture, and it has a lot of the same kind of influences because like Colombia's demographics basically means that the parts that are in like next to the ocean have really high like black populations because, well, of course, that's where slaves got to. So that's kind of where they stayed. There hasn't been like that much integration in Colombia in that sense. So that's why I was telling you that when you go to different places in Colombia, it feels like different. So personally, I wouldn't say I'm Caribbean. I don't really have, like, of course, I've tried the food because that's like national food, and I know the music and I know like the dances and stuff like that. So I've definitely participated in the culture, and I wouldn't go like as far as saying like that's not my culture, but it's definitely not my culture.
So, what is your perspective on Caribbean unity?
Of course, there's that sense of unity, and I do feel like very comfortable with people from the Caribbean because I know that we're similar in a lot of ways that like I'm not similar to like someone from the US or even to someone from like Brazil or Argentina. Caribbeans don't really tend to be recognized as part of like South America in general, which to some extent I agree, and to some extent I also disagree, because I think there's a lot of very similar like experiences. Of course, like living in like an island country is very different than living in a like more like mainland. So like it doesn't really matter. There's that sense of like we come from this place that has like very similar experiences, even if we haven't had the same experiences. So like at least I know if like if something happens and I'm like, yeah, this is like, I do think there's a sort of unity, even if I can't really speak for super like Caribbean unity. There's a sense of like unity with all like Spanish speaking kind of Latin American, not the US.
So, who do you think is the best leader Colombia has ever had so far?
No comment. No. Well, the thing is, most of the leaders I've liked have been assassinated. So it's again, really politically unstable country. The person that I'm going to go sign for, like when we finish this, her name is Francia Marquez. She is fantastic. I want her to be president.
Okay.
She probably won't be president because this is this country, and she's also like a Black woman. She's super leftist, and like of course, like I love her, but I know that it's probably not gonna happen. Yeah.
So, do you think like the current leader of Colombia is effective in the way that they use the media to communicate with the general population?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like everything I tell you just kind of paints Colombia as a shit show, and it is.
Oh my!
I mean, media is really different around here. They've bombed a lot of newspapers. They kill a lot of reporters. How are these people called? Like people that write in newspapers, journalists. Now they kill a lot of activists. Being an environmental activist in Colombia is super dangerous.
So like freedom of speech is
yeah.
Is a bit tricky, I guess, in Colombia.
Yep.
Whoa.
What's the primary media that the government uses to communicate with people, though? Is it like, is it newspaper? Is it social? Because our leader is really big on social media. Like the man is on Twitter and Instagram. Like his life depends on it.
Everything. Yeah.
The man loves it, right? Like what is it like in Colombia? Is there a lot of like TV, anything, radio?
During during COVID, he had a TV show.
Okay.
Which is,
Sorry.
no, it's too funny. And he would just sit down and like talk to people, which is very Hugo
Okay.
Chavez of him. That's what, like, if you look at like media in Venezuela, that's what Chavez used to do. Like, he had a TV show, but his TV show was like comedy. He would have like little, this is like not it, but he would have like a happy face thing, like a sad face thing. And it would be like, you should wear your mask. Happy face.
Is he on social media at all? Does he communicate with you guys that
Yeah.
way?
Is there on
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter?
You can find, like, for every single person that I've told you up till now, avid social media users. Like, there's a lot of radio. Like, of course, the president tries to talk to people like directly, but that doesn't really work all that much. And then a lot of people rely on like WhatsApp things. I know
Right.
that's the same
WhatsApp
everywhere.
aunties.
They're terrible. So, but yeah, that's kind of how people get their news.
Question for that is, what is your view on the relationship between culture and development?
So there's a lot of problems around that. Of course, again, the thing is, Colombia kind of tried to industrialize and really didn't get there. So they, like, we stopped. And so this is a very kind of like agricultural country, very like focused on, like primary resources. I think Colombia has a lot of oil. We have a lot of like precious
Minerals and stuff.
yeah. So Colombia has a huge like emerald thing business. We're really big on like agriculture. There's a lot of mining because there's a lot of everything. Multinational companies come here and they kind of use very precious land to like be multinational companies and be all of that.
And then how do you balance that though? Like, how do you get to keep the Colombian? Is it just complete eradication of Colombian culture, basically?
Well, it's not complete, but it's like 90%. Like, it's really, really bad. So a lot of multinational companies also own a lot of the land here. So they just, like, if you drill a huge mine and it's like open air mine, not the ones that you like go down, just like open air, you like inevitably you'll damage the actual land, like the land that's good for farming, the land that's good for all of that. And so there's really there's no way to kind of like, if they tell you like, oh, well, you're adjacent to this, but it won't really affect you, plus it'll make a lot of work, like it will generate jobs from the mine, but it damages the entire environment.
What is the indigenous group of Colombia? What are the indigenous people?
There's a lot. There's a lot. So it depends on where you are too, because there's just so many. I'll kind of tell you where the main ones are. Like, there's two really big ones. They are the Waju. They are in the like Caribbean coast. Colombia has like a big like thing at the top, kind of like a peninsula, but it's huge, and that's all theirs. And then there's the Amazon, which there's a bunch of different like tribes in the Amazon, which the state the government murdered a lot of them because there's a lot of resources in the Amazon. And like I actually have no clue, I think it's also the 1950s, there was a huge industry for like rubber, I think, and that's all in the Amazon. So they would just kind of go and kill people, I guess.
Oh my.
Tricky. And we just have one final question, Vashti, 11.
Right. So what role do you think the media should play in the interest of Caribbean or South American development?
I think media is a super powerful thing, and it's most definitely misused. Like the whole thing where it's like there's always news, like there's always something new that often detracts from like really important things being told, because again, you can just trauma dump on everyone. So of course it's news if something, like, I don't know, if there was like an avalanche, but that depend, like, it affects a lot of different things. I would say that the media really has a role, like not a role, but it has a responsibility to kind of inform people correctly and like kind of unbiasedly, or as much as it can, which it definitely does not. So, you know.
Well, thank you so much, Camilla. This was extremely informative.